This episode of From does something the show has never quite done before. It takes 4 separate characters and sends all of them digging into the past at the exact same time. And in a town where knowledge literally gets people killed, that is not brave. That is terrifying. Because if the man in yellow punishes curiosity the way he always has, then episode 4 just handed him a full menu of targets. Hey, what's up everyone? Come back to Breakdown Epic. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Now, episode 4 of From Season 4 is one of those chapters that feels like a quiet explosion. On the surface, nobody is running from monsters. Nobody is fighting for survival in the traditional sense. But underneath almost every scene, something deeply unsettling is happening. Characters are pulling on threads they probably should not be touching, and every single thread leads back to the same place, the man in yellow. So, let me break this down, because there is a lot to cover, and some of these theories get genuinely dark. I actually want to start with Sophia and Sara, because even though it is not the loudest storyline in the episode, I think it might be the most dangerous one long-term.
Sophia is now living with Sara, and on the surface, that looks like 2 outsiders bonding. Sara is isolated. People in town do not trust her. She has done terrible things under the influence of voices she could not control. And Sophia presents herself as someone who sees past all of that, someone who believes Sara is kind underneath the damage. And honestly, if this were any other show, that would be a beautiful redemption setup. But this is Fromville. So instead of comfort, what we are actually watching is a predator selecting the perfect host. Think about why Sara is the ideal target. She already has a history of being manipulated by supernatural forces. She has telepathic sensitivity that makes her vulnerable to outside influence. The town already distrusts her, so even if she tried to warn people about something suspicious, nobody would believe her. And she is desperate enough for acceptance that kindness from anyone feels like oxygen. That is exactly why the man in yellow chose her. Now, the whisper ritual scene is where things get really creepy. Sophia somehow plants a voice in Sara's mind telling her to do something simple. Take water from the pitcher in the diner, drink it, and put it back. On the surface, it sounds harmless, almost stupid, really, like asking someone to prove loyalty by eating a cracker. But that is the whole point. It is a test of obedience.
Sophia is not interested in what the task is. She is interested in whether Sara will do it. It is the same logic as the Abraham and Isaac story she references. The sacrifice itself does not matter. What matters is the willingness. And here is where it gets really dark. When Sara refuses, Sophia throws herself into the motel pool and breaks her own arm. She tells Sara it felt like someone pushed her. And just like that, the threat becomes real. If you do not obey, someone close to you gets hurt. In my opinion, that is one of the most disturbing manipulation tactics the show has ever used, because it's not a monster attacking in the dark. It's psychological warfare dressed up as supernatural consequence. And Sara has no way of knowing if the threat is real or manufactured. All she knows is that she refused and someone got hurt. I also found it interesting that Sophia somehow knew Sara put the water back without being in the room. That raises a huge question. Is Sophia watching through something else? Is the diner itself part of the surveillance network? Or is there another entity helping her from the inside? Either way, I think we have to consider Sara fully compromised at this point, and that is bad for everyone. Now, let me jump to Julie and Randall, because their storyline in this episode is genuinely exciting and also genuinely reckless.
Julie is trying to crack storywalking. Not just stumble through it randomly like she has been doing, but actually learn how to control it. And the fact that she's approaching it almost scientifically now, using the children's books as research material, makes it feel like the show is finally treating this ability as a real tool, rather than just a mysterious accident. The parallel between Julie and Fred Storywalker from the book is really clever. Both of them can move through different chapters of a story. Both of them need something called a bookmark to control where they land. And if the Gulagog character is meant to mirror Randall, then the show is quietly building a partnership that could become one of the most important dynamics in the season. I also love that the book literally has mushrooms drawn in it. This show does not do coincidences. Honestly, Julie crawling through ruins to time travel while her mom thinks she's hanging out with some older dude in the woods is peak From energy. Tabitha would absolutely lose her mind if she knew what was actually happening. But hey, at least Julie is being thorough about it. She has notes, she has a theory, she even has a spotter. That is more preparation than most characters in this show ever bother with before doing something insane. Now, the bookmark theory is fascinating because if Julie can actually learn to choose which moment in the timeline she visits, then storywalking goes from being a terrifying gamble to being a precision weapon. She could target specific events. She could revisit the massacre. She could potentially even find the moment the man in yellow first entered the cycle. But here's the problem.
Every time someone in this town gains knowledge, the cost arrives shortly after. And Julie is about to gain a lot of knowledge very quickly. So whoever's closest to her when that bill comes due should probably be very nervous. Now, let me talk about the man in yellow's suit, because this discovery at the ruins carries way more weight than people might initially think. Victor found the suit near the same spot where the man in yellow had previously buried Sophia's clothes. That tells us this entity plans ahead. He knew he would return. He prepared for it. He packed for a trip he has probably taken dozens of times before. And that leads to a theory I find really compelling. What if the man in yellow is not one fixed identity? What if he shapeshifts every cycle? What if the yellow suit is the only constant and the face wearing it changes every time the loop resets? That would explain why nobody ever recognizes him at first. It would explain how he keeps infiltrating the town as a stranger. And it would make the small ruins near where the suit was found even more significant. Because if those ruins date back to the 1500s or 1600s, which matches the earliest dates found on the lighthouse, then this entity has been running this game for centuries. In my opinion, that is one of the scariest implications the show has ever introduced. Not just that the man in yellow is dangerous, but that he has been doing this exact thing over and over and over again.
And every single time the townspeople think they are getting closer to the truth, they are really just repeating a pattern he has already seen 100 times before. Now let's talk about Victor and Henry, because their scenes together carry a lot of emotional weight. Victor, revealing that the man in yellow arrived in a car pretending to be a regular person, confirms the pattern. He mimics normal behavior. He earns trust. Then he destroys from the inside, exactly what Sophia is doing right now. Henry, recognizing the yellow suit from Miranda's paintings, is another massive connection. Miranda was painting images from before she ever arrived there. She saw the boy in white. She saw pieces of the cycle. And now her husband is standing in the middle of it holding a suit that connects everything. What worries me is that the more Victor remembers, the more dangerous his position becomes. The monsters let him survive all these years because they saw him as harmless, a scared kid who would never be a real threat. But now he is actively digging into things the entity does not want uncovered. And the punishment for that usually does not fall on the person doing the digging. It falls on someone they love. That is why I think Henry is in danger. Not because of anything he did, but because hurting him is the most effective way to punish Victor.
Now, the Ethan and Tabitha scenes are quieter, but they carry a really sad emotional undercurrent. Ethan is still clinging to the belief that his father is somehow reachable. He's talking to him on the radio, he's searching for the Lake of Tears because Jim told him to find it. And Tabitha is caught between protecting her son's hope and knowing that the truth is going to shatter him eventually. That is one of those parenting dilemmas that has no right answer. If she tells him the truth too soon, she destroys him emotionally. If she lets the fantasy continue too long, the eventual crash will be even worse. Smart move on her part to join him on the quest, though. At least she can keep him close while he chases something that may or may not exist. Speaking of the Lake of Tears, the episode does tease what could be the location, but I am honestly not fully convinced yet. From has a habit of showing us something that looks like an answer, only to reveal later that it was another layer of the question. If this really is the Lake of Tears, then it opens up a massive new thread in the mythology. If it is not, then the search continues and Ethan's hope stays alive a little longer. And then there's Jade and the mushrooms. He takes them, and then basically nothing happens, at least not yet, which honestly is kind of funny because the audience was probably expecting some massive psychedelic vision sequence, and instead Jade just sits there like someone who ordered a pizza and is still waiting for delivery.
But I do think the payoff is coming. Based on the setup, the mushrooms are likely going to trigger something connected to his past lives or his reincarnation memories. And when that happens, it could unlock one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle yet. So when I step back and look at the full picture, Episode 4 is doing something really smart. It is sending Julie into the past through story walking. It is sending Jade into the past through chemical memory. It is pulling Victor's past forward through recall. And it is using Sophia to manipulate the present through Sara. Past and present are colliding from every direction, and the man in yellow is standing in the middle of all of it, watching. In my personal opinion, this is exactly the kind of episode that makes From special. Not because of jump scares or monster attacks, but because the real horror is psychological. The real threat is knowledge, and the real danger is that every answer comes with a price tag that someone else has to pay. But anyway, that is my breakdown of From Season 4, Episode 4, and the theories I think matter most heading into the next chapter. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, do you think Sara is already fully compromised by Sophia, or is there still a chance she sees through the manipulation before it is too late? I will catch you in the next one.